But first, back to the Gold Coast, where the seat of Fadden sees voters set to go to the polls tomorrow to vote for their next federal member. Joining me to discuss this is former Morrison government minister Karen Andrews, who remains the member for the wonderful Queensland seat of Macpherson, just up the road from Fadden, or should I say down, closer to the border. Karen, welcome to the program. You know the area of Fadden well as a Gold Coaster of way back. What do you expect the outcome will be tomorrow?
Well, Amanda, thanks for having me on your show. I am clearly hoping that Cameron Caldwell, as the LNP candidate for Fadden, is going to end the day as the incoming member for Fadden. Look, he's been out there every single day working hard to get every single vote that he can. I think it's going to be an interesting result to watch. This time we've had a low turnout for pre-poll. Postal votes that have been received are significantly down at the moment. That may have well picked up today. I don't have the final figures. That means that we'd be looking still for a high turnout for the election or the by-election tomorrow. This time there's 13 candidates. Back in 2022 it was 7 candidates. So we'll see some movements most likely on primary vote. It then comes down to how preferences are going to then be allocated. So it's definitely one to watch, but I do think that the Liberal National Party has the edge at this point in time.
You're right to observe that there's some complexity that comes from having 12 candidates in the field. What do you observe from looking at least at the parties and the candidates' how to vote cards about how you expect those preferences might flow?
Well, I think that there's going to be a push from at least some of the independent candidates to push their preferences towards Labor. We're hoping that we will pick up preferences from the likes of One Nation, who are fielding a candidate there as well. But it's going to be really quite critical now. The 2022 election, it was actually One Nation that was running third. When it came to the distribution of preferences, so they were ahead of the Greens. The Greens candidate is actually the candidate that ran in Macpherson at the last election. So he's been up there campaigning in Fadden now. So it'll be interesting to see who comes in third place. My expectation clearly is that the LNP and Labor will take the top 2 positions when it comes to the distribution of preferences. And it'll be interesting to see whether it's then One Nation, as it was in 2022, or whether the Greens come in.
Yeah, that will be interesting to see. Now, our former colleague, Stuart Robert, has had his controversies, but Cameron Caldwell is an established Gold Coast councillor. What strengths would he bring to the team if he were elected?
Well, he's been a councillor for 12 years now, so he knows the area well. His division is within the seat of Fadden, so he's an experienced politician. He's a very good public speaker. He's got a very strong focus on crime, and here on the Gold Coast, and particularly in Fadden, crime is a significant issue, and I think that Cameron Caldwell will be able to make sure that he's taking up the fight in terms of making sure that we're arguing to get more police on the ground, but he's also going to focus on what is clearly a federal issue, which is making sure that we're stopping drugs coming across the border. So I think that Cameron Caldwell is a very safe pair of hands. He is well known to the people in the community of Fadden. They've trusted him as a local councillor, and I think that should he be elected, he will be an excellent member for Fadden, and he will represent his constituency very well in the federal parliament.
Karen, the Treasurer had a crack at opposition leader Peter Dutton today for being overly negative. Have a listen.
Peter Dutton is so relentlessly negative that he's even now bagging things that aren't happening, right? And this is bordering on the pathological.
What's your response to Dr. Chalmers' accusation?
Well, I don't think Peter Dutton is relentlessly negative, but he is very relentless at pointing out all the failings of the current Labor government. So I suppose if we put it in that perspective, there's a small ring of truth to the argument that Jim Chalmers is putting, but only in the context that Peter is relentless about pursuing all the failings of the Labor government, and there are quite a few to date, and undoubtedly there'll be more for Peter to speak about. But I think Peter's actually working hard. He is everywhere, right across Australia. And importantly, he's on the ground talking to people a lot. I don't think at all he is being relentlessly negative, but he is keeping Labor to account, and that is exactly what the job of the Leader of the Opposition is to do.